We live?
We're live.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Town of Silverton Trustees Candidate Night. I am Deanne Gallegos, the Executive Director of the Silverton Area Chamber of Commerce, and I will be hosting this candidate forum this evening. So explanation of tonight's events and how did we even come up with these questions? So we will first start with an explanation from Matt Green, Town Clerk, as to why you're not going to see a ballot in your mailbox and that these particular candidates have been elected to Town of Silverton Trustees. And then we're going to go into a 4-question, 1-minute round, fire round, right? Each get 1 minute. I'll have the timer. I'll start you guys out, kind of direct the evening. And when you hear the timer beep, your time is up. So we'll go through 4 questions that kind of just warm us up and get people to get to know you. And then we're going to do 8 questions where you get 2 minutes, and it will feel like a long time having 2 minutes sometimes to answer these questions. And again, when the timer buzzes, we'll pass on to the next candidate. And then you'll have an opportunity for closing statements for your final thoughts for the evening's events. So the way that I came up with who's going to talk first and how is this going to roll? You guys came in and you picked your own seats, right? There was no direction as to seats. And so we're going to start with Jeff, then Tyler, then Dana. And then the next question, Tyler, Dana, Jeff, and so on and so forth. So that everybody answers first time and everybody answers last time. So most important thing for the evening will be for Matt Green to just discuss again, why there won't be necessarily a ballot, but why we are fortunate enough as a community to have the 3 of you on the trustee board.
So the long and short of it is when it came time for the deadlines for writing candidates to submit their affidavit for intent to run for writing candidates. That sounds kind of redundant. Basically, nobody had put in for writing candidacy, and we only have as many candidates as there were seats. And so since there were not more candidates than seats, then there was, no contest. As long as each of them received 1 vote, they could go in office, they could all vote for themselves. So there's, no real need to hold an election. And then per Colorado Revised Statutes 31-10-507 and Silverton Municipal Code, as long as those conditions are met to where there's not more candidates than offices to be filled, then the board trustees can vote to cancel the election.
Thank you, Matt. All right, so how did these questions even come about? So this is kind of how we host this event every time that we have to have a candidates and or mayoral race. First and foremost, it comes from the community. We start to go out there, I go out and talk to people, I talk to different boards, different agencies, and we start to look for a pattern, right? And I have 3 pages of cut and paste questions, and then I start sectioning. Oh, it's this particular topic. It's that particular topic. We also give the Silverton Standard editor a question. We give the director of San Juan Development a question. And then I kind of fill in the blanks with what rose to the top of the community. So no community question goes unheard. Those will be turned over without names attached to Town Administrator Gloria. So she can kind of see, well, what was the community asking? But we really look for what rises to the top and take literal questions from the community at large. Sometimes I have to kind of finesse them for, grammar, but pretty much this is community driven and a couple of leading organizations in our community. So let's waste no more time. Let's get this started. So I'm going to control the timer as well as who is going to start and stop with talking. So again, first we're going to have 1 minute, 4 questions with 1 minute. And first one, Mr. Davis, is just tell us who you are and introduce yourself.
Okay, great. Do I need to take the whole minute? Is that?
No, you do not.
So my name's Jeff Davis. I'm originally from Toledo, Ohio. So I've got some really strong Midwest values. I moved to Colorado after graduating from college in 2005. There you go. I'm older than I look. And I am really involved in the snow and avalanche industry. I was brought here to Silverton because of this is the home for avalanche exploration and just learning more about avalanches. I've been here since 2018, and like I said in the paper, was welcomed by one of the biggest avalanche cycles in over 100 years. So it really made me feel at home here in Silverton. I live over in Snowden with my girlfriend and our 2 labs. I'm a homeowner here in town. I'm really proud to be a Silvertonian. I care a lot about the people. I come here with no agenda. I'm just here to listen, and I know I've got a lot to learn. I'm excited about this opportunity, and that's my story.
Nice. You only had 4 seconds left. Yeah. All right, Mr. George.
Yeah, so Tyler George, I was born and raised here. Well, I was born in Montrose, I guess, but went to school here, graduated high school here. I went to Fort Lewis, got a degree in business administration, and then I left for several years. I came back to help my family run our lodge on Red Mountain Pass, the St. Paul Ski Lodge. And I've been working for the ambulance for the last 6 years. I recently was promoted to the director of the ambulance. And I've been sitting on the current town board for the last year and a half after Austin Lashley was elected to the county commissioner's spot. And so I know the town, I know the people, I really care about it. And one thing I can say is I'll always be honest with you, whether it hurts me or not. So, yeah.
Nailed it, Tyler, with 1 second left. Dana.
My name is Dana Kranker. My husband Keith and I moved to Silverton about a year and a half ago with our 3 boys. We have a 10-year-old named Jonah and twins that are 7 named Will and Theo. And we both have always loved recreating in the mountains. We've been living in Denver for the past 7 years or so, and we just found ourselves always wanting to be in the mountains as opposed to the city, especially recently. And when we found Silverton, we just knew this was going to be a really special place. And it's proven to be that place for the last year and a half. We found incredible community and really love the small town feel and the chance that in this place, anybody can make a difference. Anybody can contribute to their neighbors and their friends. And a little bit about me, my background, I actually have a degree in medical anthropology. So I've been working with the public health department recently because that's a close tie. I've taken the last 10 years off to raise my kids, and I'm just excited to be back serving people outside of my home.
Thank you. All right, question number 2, and we're going to start with you, Tyler. Tell us why you choose Silverton to be your home.
Access to the mountains. I think one of the reasons a lot of us live here is because, you can walk out your front door and be in the middle of the mountains. Also, growing up here, there was a real sense of community. And when I left and I traveled all over the world, all over the United States, I was hard pressed to find another place that had the same sense of community that we have here. And also the size, and as Dana just mentioned, it's really an easy place to make a big difference and contribute, and then see sort of the fruits of your labor pretty quickly. And I love it here. I left and I looked all over for something else, and there was nowhere else quite like this. So I'm so happy that I was able to come back.
Perfect. Dana.
Similar to Tyler, I have moved around all over the world. I'm the daughter of a miner, and so we grew up moving a lot to wherever the latest mine was. And I never thought I would be back in mining towns, but coming here really feels like home. Raising our boys in a place where they can walk down the street and neighbors know them, people of all ages have relationships with them, and we can feel safe and supported by a community. We can get into these mountains and experience the wildness and the wilderness. And I just think it's a place, like Tyler said, there's not a lot of places like this anymore. And I think there's things to preserve here, and we have a really special opportunity to shape it for the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, just as to the lucky part of going third, I echo a lot of the same things these other 2 have said about living in a small town. The access to the mountains, the ability to get involved. I really living over on the side of town I do, I love watching the kids come to and from school on their kick sleds or their cross-country skis, like the local Barney kids ding dong ditching once in a while, just makes me feel like a part of it. I do come here. The work is what brought me here originally. And then, before moving to Silverton, I lived in like Summit County and over in Telluride, and it's, you can feel the angst of the people and no support for the locals. And I definitely feel that support for the locals here in Silverton. I look forward to being involved.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to move to Dana answering first. What do you think the role of being a town of Silverton trustee means?
I think that we are here to support the staff in the planning and the visioning that has gone forward. And I think that we're really here just to listen to all of our constituents. So there's a whole variety of opinions and perspectives. I think there's a lot of things that we as a community can agree on for the future. And so I think a role of a trustee is to take the feedback of the constituents in town, whoever they may be, and look for the themes, look for the things that we can agree on and move forward with, and help empower the staff, enable the staff to do the job that they're here to do. To carry the vision forward that the people have told us that they want to see happen.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, I think I'm still trying to figure that out. I think that there is a lot about local government and town politics that I don't know, that I'm gonna have to learn. I do agree that it is about supporting the staff and listening to people and looking at things objectively, and then also making decisions that maybe are best for the greater good, and maybe might not just be exactly like what I want, but was what the people want. And so I think it's just to be the voice of the people and really look at everything as a whole.
Mr. George?
Yeah, I believe it's our job to act in the best interest of the town. And by that, I mean, take the ideas of, the community and sort of try and distill those, and then give direction to staff and support staff in completing them. And just making sure that we're keeping an eye on the big picture as well, instead of just focusing on one small project at a time, because the rest of the world's still moving on and around us. And so we need to, make sure that we're being progressive while we're acting in the interest of the town.
Right, this is the final of our 60-second questions. Start with you, Jeff. How many Town of Silverton trustee meetings, work sessions, anything related to town activities have you attended in the last 2 years?
I was a member of the Kendall Mountain Committee, and so that was from May of 2019. And so I was very involved in that. And I've tried to stay be a pretty regular attendant to most town meetings, mostly the committee meetings. I've never participated in like a budget meeting or anything kind of outside of the main town committee.
I've made every regular town board meeting, I believe, since I missed my very first town board meeting because we had a search and rescue going. But other than that, I don't think I've missed a regular meeting since I took Austin's spot. I do sit on the finance committee. I've made most of those. I attend county commissioner meetings regularly because I represent Southwest RETAC and the ambulance. And so I sit in on their meetings at least once every 2 months. Yeah.
Thank you.
I, being new here, I have regularly tuned in, often the next day. So I'm very happy they're posted on YouTube, the committee meetings, because it's usually what I can do while I'm folding laundry or cleaning the house, or we've been renovating our cabin over the last year. So most of the committee meetings, the town trustee meetings, I would say that I've listened to after the fact. And then I was very keen on what was going on at Kendall. And so we were trying to stalk the Kendall committee and find out whatever we could and listen to those meetings. And then I've participated or listened in a couple of the planning commission meetings. So my husband calls it my new hobby. So it's probably appropriate that I'm here because it's been a new interest that I never thought that I would have.
All right, now I'm going to switch my clock to 2 minutes. So now you're going to have the 2 minutes to answer. These are the meatier of the philosophical questions. And we are going to start with Tyler. How do you plan to maintain the master plan as a working document that will continue to guide the town board for years to come and not become another dust collecting plan sitting on the shelf?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been part of organizations where you build a great master plan and then, life happens and other little things happen and you have to put out small fires and you can sometimes veer away from that master plan. So I think making sure that you have a regular review of the master plan, making sure that the work, whatever needs to be achieved in the master plan, that work is being delegated appropriately. And aside from reviewing the master plan, also revising it, because the master plan can be a living document. It's what might be the best for us now may not be what's best for us in a year. And so being flexible, knowing that it's sort of a nebulous situation, being able to delegate tasks appropriately, review regularly, and be able to revise it.
Thank you.
I am a big fan of the master plan process that we've gone through thus far. And so I really hope that it can be a strategic document for us that can be adapted and revised. But I think to Tyler's point, I hope that it is actionable and so that it has actual strategies and actionable items on it that we can make progress towards or measure progress towards. Because I think I've heard in this community, there's a lot of planning fatigue. We're really great at planning. We have lots of great plans on our websites, and we don't always make a lot of progress on the implementation side, or we don't make as much project progress as maybe people would like. And so I think being able to have actionable strategies that we can measure and making sure that it's in our regular meetings or regular staff time or regular check-ins, because if we don't fit it into our regular meetings, other things come up, like Tyler said. And so I think we need to be able to both take the long view and deal with the day-to-day priorities that come up without losing sight of our long-term goals, because otherwise we won't ever get to where we really want to go and we won't be able to shape the future that we want to have.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm under the impression that the master plan is currently being kind of revamped, and that's been a really interesting process to be a part of. I really encourage everyone to be a part of it. And as we go through that process, I agree with, especially with what Tyler said about, regular reviews and being able to adjust it over time for what is in the best interest of our community. I think that supporting the staff that are involved in like those actionable items as going with the master plan is really important. Keeping our great staff around and keeping them motivated to keep working forward. And I would agree, like just regular check-ins and not letting it fall by the wayside.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to start with Dana. Diversifying our economy has been a goal for our town for a long time. Even so, there has been minimal development on it. What would you do to support and advance economic diversification as a trustee?
Thanks, Dan. This is something I've been thinking about a lot in the last couple of months. I think sometimes we get in our own way. So we put forward certain barriers in our planning process, in our code process, in our review that sometimes don't make it as easy as we'd like for diverse economies. So for example, for diverse entrepreneurs to be able to start up here, there's certain constraints, there are land constraints, there are space constraints, there might be code and ordinance constraints. And so I think that there are ways that through our planning process, we can look at minimizing barriers for different entrepreneurs to be able to start businesses here. I think that through some of the funding that's coming through Congress, even some of the COVID funding, there may be opportunities for us to be able to tap into funding sources that really are unprecedented in our time that could potentially support different entrepreneurs and different businesses. And I think we can't ignore our beautiful winter. And so what it looks like in the winter, instead of a lot of boarded up shops and restaurants, I'd love to see a little bit more of a vibrant tourism economy in the winter as well to balance this out.
That is I can't pretend to have a huge grasp of knowledge of what, as a trustee, I actually would have the ability to do to help support growth and diversification of business. I do think that, as a town, we continue to support our local businesses and be open to different kind of different people coming to visit town, whether they're recreating or whether they want to do some sort of new investment or just kind of come and see what they can get out of here. But I have to be honest, I don't have a great answer for that question.
Yeah, I would say I'd echo a lot of what Dana said. If there's any sort of codes that we could lessen to make easier for somebody to build, if we need to rezone some property in town to make it, from residential to ED, or although that's a sensitive subject because we do have a housing shortage as well. But so taking away any of those barriers, we could also give incentives to different companies to come here, if it's, helping them get started and waiving some of the licensing fees and things like that. And one of the other big things I think that will help diversification in our economy is, as over the years, we've seen a lot of people come and try and start a business here or start different businesses here. And oftentimes they don't have the help that they need from staff because the staff turnover we've had over the years has been so high. And I think so the retention and us supporting the staff. And then when people come, they're going to have a knowledgeable, expert staff on that will know how they can help them, the steps that they need to go through, any incentives that they qualify for. I think that that'll be a huge help.
Thank you. Jeff, we're going to start with you on this next one. Silverton is growing. What are your solutions to prioritize housing and support the town administrator, town staff, planning department as our population will continue to expand?
It seems like we do have a housing shortage here and affordable housing, and it seems that as houses go to sell, they're kind of being pushed out of the affordable market. But I do think we have a really good inventory of structures here in town. And as much as I think new development, it can be really great, I think that we have a lot of opportunities here to use maybe some of the existing buildings or houses that aren't lived in anymore. Exactly how we can get the landowners or the homeowners to buy into maybe some sort of renovation program where the town will help fix it up and they get, then Section 8 housing availability comes, for them to have a good tenant in that area. That sounds great. But I really think the key with the whole housing issue currently is to look at what inventory we already have in place, what houses have taps to water and things like that, and try to work from there and then start to look at other areas.
Yeah, I think that the current board has been doing a lot on this already. And so I feel like I might be cheating because we've gone over this a lot, but, looking at inventory that we already have, but then land banking it. So if the town has an opportunity to buy it and then in a future date, try and build more affordable housing on it, that would be, I think, a good start. Working together with some of these outside nonprofits that have been helping us, like the Compass Project and some of these other people, and trying to figure out how best to go about it, if there's outside monies to use, if there's grant monies to use. And then in a survey that was taken last year, I believe it was high 30% or almost 40% of existing houses are vacant in the winter. And so either having an incentive so that they will rent them out in the winter, or putting a tax on them. I know some people would prefer the carrot to the stick, but to try and incentivize folks that don't use their houses in the winter to allow people to live there might be a good start.
I agree with both of what Tyler and Jeff have said. I think we have a lot of inventory, and building new structures takes a lot longer than using existing structures we have. So to Tyler's point, if we can pull some of those policy levers to create kind of some shifts for people to be willing to rent or to sell or to renovate or to do something to make some of the housing stock more available for people that want to live here, people that do live here and are established here. I think this is a real issue, and I hear people worry about this. I think it's related to businesses people might want to start. I know business owners themselves that are struggling to look for their next place that they're going to live. I think we need to build on the great progress that we've had from the board now. The two ladies sitting in this room, Beth and Gloria, that are really getting amazing resources for us, have done some really great planning. I think we need to build on that success. I feel really optimistic. So let's continue some of the plans that we've already had, our work in Anvil, the land banking ideas, the housing study we have. I think we have a lot of tools at our disposal. And so let's start using them and come up with some creative next steps.
Thank you. All right, Tyler, we're going to start with you. What has your role in the Kendall Mountain Recreation Area Master Plan been so far? And how do you see the role as a trustee in the project moving forward?
So I, first off, I sort of grew up skiing at Kendall. Now, even before the lift wasn't operational when I was really young, so I would hike it and ski it. But and I've helped teach the school kids over there on Sally Barney's ski team, and so I love Kendall, and I think it's one of our greatest assets. I think that previously my involvement with it has been when I joined this board. The town board currently, we were going to release an RFP, a request for proposal to see what sort of expansion we could handle over there. And the way the original RFP was worded and drafted, I was against it. I am for improvement and development at Kendall. I just think that that particular plan maybe wasn't very responsible. I think we need to start first with getting what we have in order, making sure that the lift is running and is working every day, making sure that any improvements at the lodge are done so we can use that, making sure that the ice skating rink is, usable. And then while we're doing that, we can look at, other expansion. I would like to see any expansion or improvements at Kendall Mountain be done under the town's control and with the town having the final say.
Thank you.
As I stated in the opening, we are very interested in conversations about Kendall. We have 3 boys who love to ski, and we have just treasured Kendall while we've been here. We're there most weekends with a grill, hanging out with friends. Kids are skiing laps, and it's such a special place. Formally, I haven't been a part of the Kendall committee, but as a trustee, I think the immediate next step is hearing what comes out of the planning process that the staff has been directed to undertake through a consultant. So really my role as a trustee in that regard is to hear what comes out of that and then to weigh what the community is saying about what we want there and what's been presented and what some of our options are. But philosophically, I just want to continue to emphasize, like Tyler said, what a special resource we have there, that we need to make sure that it is stewarded into the future. Of course, my kids love it, but they also get the chance to ski at Purgatory. And my heart is that kids that live here in Silverton that may not get the opportunity to ski anywhere else have that mountain. And I had the privilege of getting to teach some of the beginner skiers with the school this year and seeing the sense of empowerment and joy that some of these kids got learning to move their bodies on snow through air for the first time in their lives. It's remarkable. And so we need to make sure that that resource exists for the future in a well taken care of, preserved form that really allows us to enjoy it to its fullest potential.
So I joined the kennel committee, like I said, in May of 2019, and it was right around the start of the RFP process that was directed by the committee for us to go ahead and write that RFP. So I did wear that hat. I learned a lot during that process about, again, listening to all the voices, and not just the one in my own head, and kind of being able to adjust my desires, my dreams, and then what I really thought was what we really could achieve in that thing. And I think one of the hardest things for me with the whole Kendall process was I thought the RFP was and the viability study were really kind of presented inappropriately from what the committee was actually trying to accomplish. At no point I think this is the camera. I was not trying to sell out the town. That was not the goal. And I really care about making things for us here in town. I agree. I think there's some great bones over there. I'm one of the leaders of the Underground Links Hockey Club that likes to play over in the pond. And I'd love to see us continue to grow there. Working with the kids is a highlight of my winter. And, I think there's a lot to happen over there. I think it's really important. And I've learned that it's a very big passion of all the people here in town. So it's very important that we listen and that we make decisions. And I agree, in doing things within the scope of what we can control is going to be very important.
All right, Dana, what is your vision or even level of interest in the Kendall Mountain Recreation Master Plan?
They're dual questions. Well, I kind of spoke to that, I think, right? I'm very curious to see, as we take this new tact of kind of being presented with a variety of options for the Kendall recreation area, I'm interested to have the community react to it as trustees consider that. But I do think that it's an amazing year-round resource, but it is also especially an amazing winter resource, and we shouldn't negate that. We shouldn't hide from that. I heard it once described as it could be the Norman Rockwell mountain of our town, right? That it provides this beautiful space to experience ice skating and sledding and skiing and the lodge, and beautiful things in the summer around the river, and just a community space. And that's what I would really like to see as a driving force. And I think there's great things we can learn from the Kendall Planning Committee's work. They talked to a lot of tiny ski areas and big ski areas, and they learned a lot. And so I think we can take what they learned and we can build from it to create a vision of what we want for our community. And I think that needs to be the forefront of what does the community want this to be, and how do we make it sustainable as a resource for us, potentially diversifying our economy. It may attract visitors. I mean, the parking lot's busy now with people teaching their kids to ski from Durango and Ouray. And so I think we can't ignore that visitors are coming, and just continue to see how we want to build it for the future. First is our resource and our gem that we get to use, and then also for the future, what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely support Kendall being a part of the master planning process. And as we look to grow and diversify and, create more of a year-round economy, I think it's definitely a big part of it. I'll be honest, I don't think it's like the headline of what we need to focus on right now. And so even though it's something I'm very passionate about, I think there's other things that are more important. The town infrastructure, the housing issues, getting people, I'm learning there's more poverty in town than before. And so focusing on like a skiing thing or something for recreation, that was great. And it's going to help in a lot of ways and is important to be a part of the whole picture as we grow. I think it's definitely not the top of my agenda, or really like why I'm getting involved in this.
I think that Kendall, the question was, what do I sort of?
What is your vision or level of interest?
Level of interest and vision. So level of interest is very high. Just based on how important it is to everybody in town and the amount of people I've spoken to, and their level of interest in it, it means that I need to also make sure that it's a priority. Because I'm representing them. And so I really am excited to hopefully be really involved with some of the next steps we do at Kendall. And like I said in the answer to the previous question, I think we need to start shoring up what we have. I know we've had some lift issues recently. I know that the lodge isn't even, you're not even able to use portions of it right now. And that's a great asset for weddings, and it's a great venue for all sorts of different things. So I think that that needs to be addressed. I would love to see the ice rink addressed and make sure that we have an ice rink that maybe has shade and is, more well-built, because I can remember when we used to have, there would be 30, 40 people coming from Uray and Durango, and we would have big ice hockey tournaments, and it was just so fun. And then one of the other things that I was speaking about recently to some folks in town is seeing if we could maybe get night skiing there and put our own lights in. That way we could have night skiing once a week without having to rent generators and lights, et cetera. And for long-term, I think it would be a great idea if we could add some terrain and add a lift. I just think we need to be really careful about how we go about it, make sure that we've done all of our due diligence, and make sure that cost benefit's going to be there, and that it is going to be something that will add to it, and it won't just sort of put us in a hole moving into the future. So
I do have to say about 68% of the questions I got in were around Kendall with the community. And it was somewhat about the master plan, but it was just Kendall in general. So that was number one. So we're going to have one last question about it. So I'm trying to go through the list of questions, but just simply, what do you think, and Jeff, you'll go first, are the top 3 immediate priorities for Kendall Recreation Area?
The lift, the deck, and the ability to keep the water lines from freezing.
Tyler.
yeah, I would say the lodge, because that is a year-round asset that we can use. When I was running the catering business, we would do weddings over there at least every weekend in the summer. And then of course in the winter, it's a great place to have a little warming hut and have a place for people to get inside and relax. I've been told that the folks from POMA were up recently, and that the lift is fixed moving into the future. But I don't know if we need to keep a stipend set aside or some budget set aside so we can fix it immediately if it does break down again, because that is it's a big risk. And I also think that, and this was an idea that was brought up by some of the Parks and Recs guys, was if we could look into maybe even snowmaking. That way we could extend our season on either end for skiing. And I think that's something that I think could be an immediate goal that we could actually attain. So.
I like Tyler's use of the event area in general. I think that the lodge needs attention so that it can be used. We had ski racers from Uray that weren't even really able to get into the lodge to warm up. And so I think that addressing the lodge and the deck, which is being looked at, is really important. And I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. I mean, we could improve skating, I think, there with not a lot of investment. And people keep bringing it up to me over and over and over again. And I think the lift needs to be sustainable in its current form. So we need to know what that looks like and what we need internally and what support we need externally to really make it viable and sustainable.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to the next topic. And I actually got this quite a bit as well. So Tyler, we're going to start with you. What is your philosophy or plan to unite this community that has felt so divided in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I know that I came on the board right when we had a very contentious issue coming up. And I think that we're really going to find out if that rift is going to grow or if it may indeed shrink based on how our economy looks after a summer without OHVs, because that was one of the very contentious issues. Aside from that, I know that was a big deal and a big issue, but I don't think the rest of the issues that we face are as contentious. I think that if you look at this board's record over the past year, if I had to put a number on it, and this is just, I'm just guessing here, but I'll bet 85 to 90% of our votes were unanimous. And so we do work together a lot on a lot of things, and we do agree on a lot of things. And we sort of get these hot button issues that really can divide us. But I hope that moving into the future, we see that the economy is still able to thrive, or and grow, and hopefully that may help unite us a little bit more moving forward.
Yeah.
So I think I've definitely heard a lot about the disenchantment and the disconnection that people feel, but I actually tend to be a little bit more optimistic. I think we have a lot of potential in this town because we are so small and we are really connected. And so in a big city and on Facebook or even nationally, you can just annihilate each other and you don't have to see each other face to face. You don't have to see each other as humans because you're not interacting. And in a town like this, we're forced to. And I think that's really important and creates a lot of potential for human kindness. And so something I've been thinking a lot about is how we bring back more times to come together, whether that's through events, whether that's through gatherings, whether that's formal or informal, but times where we can again see each other as human. We can agree to disagree, because I know that I'm not going to agree with everybody and you may not agree with me, but I can commit that I'll listen to you. I'll thoughtfully consider any issue that comes before me, and that we can have differences of opinions and still be neighbors that have common things that we want for our community. And so to Tyler's point, I think there's a lot more that we agree on than we disagree on. And that's not to discount the fear that some people feel in this community. Some business owners feel it's not to discount the fear and the angst that they feel about what their future looks like. I think that has to be acknowledged, but I think we also need to come alongside each other, hear that, and also share each other's perspective about what we think the future of this community can look like. And I just really believe that there are things we can agree on and move forward. And maybe that's optimistic, but I am an eternal optimist. So the sky could be falling and be like, well, but at least it's pretty.
I like Dana's optimism, and I like Tyler's view of that. Maybe we're on the other side of a bell curve after a pretty challenging time for our community. I am a big believer in fun and events and bringing people together, and I think this is a good opportunity to encourage people to show up to things, including myself, and kind of make it a point for all of us to want to bring that community together. So I'm almost going to use what's my plan is I'm going to challenge Silvertonians to make it their priority as well, and let us create the opportunity to bring everyone together and then show up.
All right, well, second part to this, and we'll start with you, Dana, is, and I got this quite a bit, what is your plan or philosophy about your role in also uniting the Board of Trustees?
I think that's an interesting question, and it's probably coming from a place of seeing a lot of disunity and people looking from the outside, maybe trying to say there's aspects of dysfunction. I think for me, I care deeply about hearing from a lot of people. It's not to say I'm just listening to everybody's opinion, but I care what a lot of different people, I care about their perspective. It might be the anthropologist in me. I find people fascinating and I find their perspectives really interesting. And so I think part of a role I can have is hearing from a lot of different voices and having relationships with a wide variety of people in this community. And so I think that's one role that I can have, is just bringing a wide perspective to comments and discussions that we have. And I think I'll go back to my personal conviction and promise that I will thoughtfully consider every issue that comes before me. I'm not thinking of this as certain alignment with different views. I think often we like to label each other in black and white categories and boxes. And don't really ascribe to that. And so I think there's an ability to consider each issue that comes before us and think about it kind of independently, but also bringing in a wide variety of perspectives that I've heard personally.
And and this was about the board. Sorry, this was bringing.
Particular as a board of trustees.
Yep.
So same thing. What is your plan or philosophy about uniting?
The board. Well, a lot of times in communication, I feel that tone is the driver of the conversation. And so I promise to carry a specific tone and just kind of be open to listening to others and being able to disagree. And, I think also with that being really prepared for these meetings, being prepared when spending, like really making the most out of that time. So to unify the board, I guess I would just say I'll be respectful of everyone. I'll make sure to control my tone. And I think like Tyler said, it seems like a lot of the votes recently have all been unanimous, even though some of the discussions don't feel that way. And I feel like a lot of times that's just somehow somehow the tone changes and the conversation becomes less productive.
Yeah, so everybody on this board is starting from a place of common ground because we all live here and we all live here because we love it here. I mean, you don't move here to make millions of dollars or, any of these other reasons. So we're all starting from the same place. And so once you have common ground to start with, I feel like it's easy to build off of that. And being respectful, listening to the other board members, but having a lively debate is good. And I think it's really good for not only the board, but for the community to see where all the different viewpoints and ideas are coming from. And then I think one of the best things that we can do is when I joined the board, because of COVID, we weren't able to have our board member retreat. And Trustee Barella, Molly she kept telling us, she said, this is the best thing we can do to build, relationships between us and create sort of a sense of team. And when we were able to finally do that, because COVID allowed it, it really did help our board move forward. And I think that would be an important step once this new board is formed. And I think that we will get a lot more done if we sort of build that trust and build those relationships in a setting like that.
Thank you. All right, Jeff, what do you see as a weakness in our infrastructure, and what should the priority of the town of Silverton be in strengthening that weakness?
Well, water is life. And so water is super important to, our infrastructure. And I think that it seems like we're having quite a few frozen pipes, and we're dealing with that during the summers, or excuse me, during the winters. I also see that it seems like houses are having frozen pipes and leaking lots of water. And I feel like it would be really important for us to find a way to be able to maybe know that before the homeowner does, if they're gone for a while. So I think that really improving our water infrastructure is the most important. Let that be both the sewer and then also just the clean water lines coming into our homes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I echo him. Water is huge, not only, freezing water pipes and that infrastructure, but, if we had a fire at the old livery and that almost drained our water tank. And so I think having redundancies, I know we're looking at getting some other wells drilled and finding some other sources of water to make sure that we do have a constant, reliable source of clean, fresh water. And then closely behind that is the wastewater treatment plant. I know that a lot of folks have probably noticed the smell in the summer down at the end of town. And it's a project that I know Director Seitz has been working on pretty hard to try and get it overhauled. And it's something that all the staff have been working on. And I hope that we could get the wastewater plant revamped as well. And those two would sort of hand in hand be the priorities.
I'll echo what Tyler and Jeff said. I think when I talked with people in the community, the thing that kept coming up over and over again was infrastructure, public works, maintenance, deferred maintenance. And I think it's something that we have to address, and it takes money. I think that's the hard part, is it takes investment in money. And so I'm enthusiastic about how the town is looking to address it and the plans that are in work with the wastewater treatment plant. And I think to Jeff's point too, about just frozen pipes, someone said to me, why is it okay for us to just say that a whole block of town can have frozen pipes for a whole week? Why is that acceptable? And so I think finding ways, we kind of sit with this certain level of standard of the way we've always done things. And I think finding ways in our budget or with reserves or planning for the future to tap into some funding for future infrastructure, just so we can support the locals that we have and any future growth that we might anticipate.
All right, so continuing on the infrastructure. So infrastructure means many things, right? Water, sewer, power, roads and bridge, town staff, nonprofits, internet, it's all the things that are the backbones of our community that make us healthy and sustainable. So with thinking of all the types of infrastructure within our community, can you give us the top 3 priorities that you think that we could address to make this more of a sustainable community? Tyler.
Yeah. Increasing the ability of the wastewater plant, because as I was told recently, if we add 10% to our population, it will no longer be able to work. Now, I don't know that was sort of secondhand. Don't quote me on that, but so that's a really important one. And then making sure that everybody has access to high-speed internet is huge. I know that there's this, 100-foot away or, quarter-mile away where people are close to fiber, but they still don't have it. And I think that we can get a lot. That's one of the ways that we can get diversified economy is up here is, after COVID, a lot of people can work remotely and they can work from Zoom, but they've got to have a reliable, fast internet. And then finally, the last part of infrastructure is making sure that we can have infrastructure ready for land that may not be developed yet, and making sure that people that are going to come in and want to build in these places, that we can have water, sewer taps and things like that ready for them in a timely fashion, so that they can build and it's not a barrier to them getting a structure put up.
I'm going to echo what Tyler said. I think wastewater is really important and it's kind of an immediate emergency need. I think pipes in the ground needing to be stable, accessible, potentially replaced. And the third I'm going to add is staff. I think if we don't have a strong town staff like we have now, if we're not able to retain our staff and they're not able to do the jobs that we're giving them now, we can plan for the future, we can invest in the future. And if there's not strong staff to carry that out, we're just going to churn and we're going to struggle with implementation again. So I think our staff is really important. And then I want to talk to redundancy. I think redundancy for electricity and for internet is really important as well. And I know there's great work being done on that. So again, I'm going to come back to being really optimistic. I think we talk about these problems that we have, but I think we are really positioned right now with potentials for funding, the staff that we have, to make a lot of progress in these areas. Again, I may be optimistic and naive, but I'm still going with it.
Yeah, no, they've all been said, but I'm gonna change my order. I'm gonna put staff number 1. I have, I can continue to support those guys because I do agree you can plan all you want. And if we keep, if we lose staff or we don't have that consistency, things will fall through the cracks. Wastewater, water. I actually didn't know those were all the different parts of infrastructure. So I appreciate that. It's a good learning. And then I think, as power backups, I think are super important. As we know, we live in avalanche country. And we could easily take down one of those lines from coming over from Ridgeway and the transfer station there at Overpass, and that could be really detrimental to all the things that we have in place if we don't have the power to actually keep things running. So, and with that, power I think is really important for heat in the winter and keeping everybody warm.
Right, Dana. What are some of the low-hanging fruit concepts or ideas that you have around town beautification projects, and how will you see them through?
I think we could do a lot around town cleanup days, right? As hitting the, how do we unite people? But it also can be a great way in one day to beautify our town, to get us ready for the different seasons that we go into. That's just a little thing that's not hard to accomplish. I think that we can do some small projects. Again, I'm going to go back to an ice rink at Kendall. It's not a huge lift. It could be wrapped up into the larger Kendall planning process, but I think there are ways that we can make skating happen, which is something that's come up to me so many times, from old timers to new people with kids, that maybe with a little bit of volunteer hours, maybe a little bit of funding, we could have some skating happening there and just expand our recreation opportunities. And it's something that can have available for visitors as well. So I think those are some low hanging fruit things. And back to the cleanup days, like picking up the dog poop around town, right? It's a little thing, but this time of year, lots of people complain to me about it and talk about it. And so I think there are little things that we can do that help our town feel like a place that we want to be and that also visitors want to be.
Town cleanup is great, and getting everyone involved. Again, way to unite the community and give back. I think I love the flowers in the summer. Continue to support that. Continue to support those. I know that takes a lot of work. An ice rink, agree, would be a really small, like not a big ice rink, not a refrigerated ice rink, but something small could really shape up the winter time around here. Oh shoot, I just had one. Oh no. I just think that I had a great idea and I just forgot it. Ice rink. Okay, go ahead, Tyler.
I also want an ice rink. I'm with you. Town cleanups. We used to do them when I was growing up, like all the school children got out for a day. Everybody in the community came together. You'd go out and clean everything up. We tried to repeat that last spring with the ambulance association, and because of COVID, because of the weather, and because everybody was still sort of worried about a pandemic spreading, it wasn't as successful as we had hoped. But we're going to try again and have a barbecue and have a little gathering afterwards. So, but yeah, town cleanup is awesome. And then one of the things that I think that is low hanging fruit that we could really focus on would be this sort of river corridor and river walk, which I was handed a plan for a river corridor river walk that was it was made in the mid or late 2000s, and the plan is there, everything's in place, and I wasn't aware of it until a month ago or something. And so taking something like that we already have a plan for, we already have the river, it's all been drawn out. I think that might be something that would really add to our town, to have a nice little summer river walk, and it can mirror what the groomers do in the winter, which they do a great job too. And that's one of the things that is low hanging fruit that I think we're already using. But yeah.
All right. And then we're going to go to Jeff. So our little community is booming, right? It feels for some people that we're bursting at the seams. It feels for other people, it's too many, not enough, kind of all in between, but we are growing. But what does healthy growth in our community mean to you?
We can't price the locals out. To me, it's pretty simple. And I've seen it in a lot of the other places I've lived, where it becomes a place where you can't afford to live, or the locals have to work really, really hard to live, and then they get crusty. And so it needs to be a place that, like, if we enjoy being here, people will enjoy coming to visit, and then they'll enjoy leaving. And so it's like a really good opportunity to make sure that as this growth happens, which does seem to be inevitable, that we really focus on our locals, and we really focus on making sure that we don't make it so it's not a sustainable place to live anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, affordable housing for working class people is going to be huge for responsible, sustainable growth. Unlike other mountain communities that I mean, it's probably not a fair comparison now, but it may have been a fair comparison 40 years ago, like Aspen, Telluride, places like this. As they grew, they had places like Sawpit, Placerville, or Basalt and Carbondale. And so, you know, there was always an outlet for working class people to sort of live out of town and still travel to town, but we don't have that. So making sure that we really build in some safeguards to make sure that we have a good inventory of affordable housing for working class folks. Otherwise, I think it could be a disaster, because then, you know, there's nobody to do any of the jobs here in town that we need done. So, and yeah.
Same theme, locals first. I think we need to be able to have ways that people can live here, raise a family here, families can move here. And it goes back to affordable housing, having a diversity of housing. We can't just build affordable housing. We also have to have a diversity of housing, but trying to incentivize homes that are full and not vacant, they're not boarded up. And so I think just creating ways that we can bridge the gap maybe for affordability. And I think there's some great progress being done there. But I'm going to echo exactly what Tyler and Jeff said, locals first, and being thoughtful as we do the master planning process about what kind of growth we're trying to attract and how our policies, our code, our ordinances hinder or help that growth. And so again, I just think we need to be really as strategic as possible so we can shape the future we want, as opposed to having it shaped for us.
We did it. It's 8:01. That was my goal, like 1 hour with you guys. And, you know, I've had the luxury and honor of knowing each one of you guys very well and getting to work with you with search and rescue, as many teams as you and I have been on, and then just the wonderful things that you're doing, Dana. So I really appreciate the three of you coming out this evening and spending this time with us and letting the community get to know you. And that's what was important about this evening. Although we're not going to officially have a ballot and there's no competition, it kind of feels nice, right? Because we can just kind of sit here and ask you guys these questions and get to know you and not really have that pressure that normal elections have. But that being said, I have so much personal faith in all three of you. I am very optimistic as well and look forward to what this community is capable of and how this board will continue to move forward. We have incredible staff under this building. That is something we are set up for success. And now we have all of you sitting on the board with really positive, proactive, community-minded attitudes. So starting with you, Tyler, do you have any closing statements for the evening?
Yes, it's been a real honor to sit on the board for the last year and a half. I think it's, I did it, one, because I thought it was my civic duty, but also I found it to actually be really rewarding. I mean, when you can, you know, you can help shape policy in town and then see, you know, the fruits of your labor, which I think I mentioned earlier. And I'm really looking forward to listening to the community and doing the best that I can do for you all moving into the future. And lastly, I would like to thank all of the staff that have been working for the town, because in my capacity as a board member, there was some turnover when I first joined. We were going through some turbulent times, and the staff that we currently have has been just, they're amazing. They're as good a staff as I've worked with anywhere in any job. And so really proud of the staff, and really, we are really lucky to have them, so.
I agree. I'm really thankful for this civic opportunity to volunteer. I kept thinking about this idea and I just said, you know, if I don't offer time to this position, who will? Who am I expecting is going to step up? And so I felt like this is a great chance for me to contribute to my community and be a part of something that's outside of just myself or my home. And I am really excited. This place is really special to me, to our family, and I see an amazing future for this town. And I really feel like we can really be a shining example for a small mountain community. In so many ways, we hit above our weight. We're this tiny little hamlet with, 700 people in the winter. We have a world-class school. We have amazing search and rescue and avalanche. We have phenomenal support for just the activities that happen here. And I just think we have so much potential to hit above our weight and to really be an example for how we can address some of these really challenging issues. People are facing affordability crises everywhere. Mountain towns are struggling with diversifying their economy. And I think that we have very high capacity staff, very high capacity community members that have a lot of enthusiasm and passion and ideas. And I'm really excited to be a part of it.
Well, since this is free form, I'd like to go back to the low hanging fruit for beautification, just outdoor seating in the summer. I love our outdoor seating. We can continue to make that a little nicer, but I did remember that. But I'm pretty sure I'm excited for this opportunity. I think it's gonna be a ton of work. I think there's a lot to learn. I guess what I say to the community is I have thick skin and I'm opinionated. And I'm ready for feedback. Respect me and I'll respect you. I'm really excited to work with the board that's currently in place. I think there's a lot of good work being done and things we can little things we can tick off to kind of see some change and some growth. I think that I'm really excited to be here in Silverton and to make this home and continue to live here. And so thanks for this opportunity. And here we go.
All right. Well, thank you guys for all participating this evening, everyone in the live audience, everyone on Zoom and YouTube, and go forth and succeed, you guys. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, guys.